Good morning to all of you. Can you all please confirm whether the voice is clear and audible? Can you please confirm it in the chat? Yes. Still, I did not get any reply. Okay, so we can start with the class. And today is the seventh session of concept review series. And today we are going to discuss about system physiology, that is animal physiology. Under that, I have taken a topic that is endocrinology, from where you can expect very good number of questions. And if you have attempted the recent exam, you might be aware that the questions have come from this unit in the form of part C, right? So we can start with the review series. Yes. The reference book for system physiology will be obviously Tortora. So any of the units you may refer, Tortora is the best book for the reference. Now we can move on to the topic. So first thing is endocrine system. So can I know from you what is the function of endocrine system? Can you please say, everyone, what is the exact role of endocrine system in our body? Yes. Yes. I'm not getting any replies. Huh. Yes. Hormone. What is its function? What is the function? That's what I'm asking. What is the function of endocrine system? It will be producing hormones, right? Yes. Very good, Kavita. Kavya, it's a messenger system. Meaning, for what purpose? What kind of messages it will be transmitting? So mainly, if you see, they are responsible for the basic activities of our life, right? So we have endocrine system responsible for growth and development, for the development of sexual characteristics in both males and females. Yes, regulation of various body activity, coordination in the nervous system. Very correct. Kirtana, Anup, Rohan, Pranav. Apart from that, maintaining the blood sugar level in the body, the amount of fluid that is present in our body, maintaining the appetite, and a lot of other functions, right? So these are, so without endocrine system it is not possible to survive, because they are the heart of our system, we can say. So hormones can be classified depending upon their functions, right? We can classify them based upon their chemical basis. We can classify them based upon their circulation or non-circulation. So first classification is based upon the movement. So we can broadly classify these hormones into two types. One is circulating hormones, another is local hormones. Now, what are circulating hormones? Circulating hormones are those hormones which are released from the endocrine cells, and they will be released into the blood circulation. From the blood circulation, they will be reaching the target cells in order to get the response. On the other hand, we have got local hormones. Local hormones, in the sense, they will have their mediators nearby. One such example is paracrine, which will release the chemical messengers, and this chemical messengers will have its effect only on the nearby target cell. Another example is your autocrine cell. Autocrine cell means what? Self stimulation. So the cell will produce some messengers. That messengers will have the receptors on the same cells, and they will be generating a response. So this is a type of classification based upon the movement of hormones. Next, We can broadly classify our endocrine glands into two types. That is, one set is called major glands and another set is called minor glands. Now, here I want to put a question to all of you. Why do we consider this as a major gland and why do we consider these as a minor gland? What is the difference between the two? Is there any functional difference? Is there any structural difference or what kind of difference? Like if I if I want to ask on what basis they are being classified. Can anyone say? On what basis they are being classified as major glands and minor glands? Any idea about it? Yes? Rohan, Pranav, Anup, Kirtana, anyone having the idea why this classification is or what is the difference in this classification? See, major glands in the sense they will be having function only with respect to endocrine secretion, meaning they will have only the endocrine functions, right? But minor glands means what? They will have endocrine functions. Other than that, they will have several other functions. Just take the examples of ovaries and testes. These are reproductive organs, right? So they will carry out the functions of reproduction. But at the same time, they will have the endocrine function as well. So minor glands are considered to be those glands which will have both endocrine function as well as some other function. But when you look into major glands, they will be exclusively endocrine function. Okay, so that is the basic difference between major and minor glands. So we are going to look into all these glands individually. So before moving into that, we have got, as I said you, we can classify hormones into different types. So chemical classifications, we can consider it as lipid soluble hormone and water soluble hormones. Lipid soluble hormones, you will find the receptors are located either in the cytosol or within the nucleus. Similarly, water-soluble hormones, you will find the receptors are located within the plasma membrane. Now, coming to the examples of lipid-soluble hormones, we have got steroids, we have got thyroid. Coming to water-soluble hormones, we have got amines, peptides, and protein hormones. Yes, Kirtana, yes, Rohan, you are absolutely correct. Right. So I guess GPCR signaling is over from unit 4. So can anyone say me, amines comes under which category of signaling pathway? Do you able to remember? Yeah, duct and ductless is also a category. Yes, Kavita. Can anyone say me, amines comes under which category of signaling? Because you have already completed with cell signaling session, right? So you might be aware. Are you able to recollect? Yes. See, amines are what? These are the hormones that are derived from tyrosine and tryptophan. So can you name me the hormones that are tyrosine tryptophan derivatives? Can you name me the hormones that are derived from tyrosine or tryptophan? Yes. See, they are those hormones secreted by auxin. Auxin is actually a plant hormone. This one, I am speaking of animal hormone, adrenal medulla. If you remember, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all those are tyrosine derivatives. So those comes under the category of amines. Apart from that, thyroid will be there, pineal gland will be there. So now you got an information about the ligand, right? That is your epinephrine can be acting as a ligand over here. Now epinephrine can come under which signaling pathway? Epinephrine can come under which signaling pathway? Still I did not get the answer for that signaling pathway. Epinephrine comes under which signaling pathway? Yes, Maumita, thyroid hormones are there. T3, T4, all those things will come under. I'm asking the signaling. If you remember, you have studied about GS pathway, right? Under GPCR, you have studied about GS pathway. So this comes under that category. Now, second group is your polypeptides. Yes, polypeptides can be broadly classified into two types of proteins. One group of proteins that is made up of less than 100 amino acids, that is antidiuretic hormone, and there will be some proteins that is made up of more than 100 amino acids, that could be your growth hormone, prolactin, even insulin also comes in this under this category. Okay. Next, we have got glycoproteins. If you look into the structure of glycoproteins, they are made up of more than 100 amino acids. Along with that, they will have one or more carbohydrate group attached to them. Examples will include FSH, LH, and thyroid stimulating hormones. GC is a different category. Yes, Nandini, GC is also there, but that comes under receptor tyrosine kinase activity. Okay, yes. Now, coming to steroids or sex hormones, these are basically cholesterol derivatives. So, all the sex hormones, that is testosterone, estradiol, progesterone, cortisol, will come under the family of steroids. Now, since we understood what is the difference between a lipid soluble and a water soluble hormone, let's look into their signaling pathway. So, first one is water soluble pathway or water soluble hormonal pathway. What happens? This is a pakka of your GS pathway. If you can see, you have got a ligand. This will go and bind to their receptor. Upon binding to their receptor, G protein gets activated. Upon activation of G protein, you will find AC is getting activated. Now, this AC will help in the activation of a second messenger, that is CAMP. Second messenger will activate certain protein kinases. Protein kinases, more precisely speaking, it will be protein kinase A, right, when it comes to GS pathway. Now, this protein kinase will go on phosphorylating the proteins, I mean the target proteins, and they will get you a desired response. Now, if you want to terminate this pathway, what you can do? You can add phosphodiesterase to that. Now, what is the function of phosphodiesterase? This leads to degradation of a second messenger. So, this leads to termination of the pathway. Now, moving on to lipid-soluble hormones. So, here the receptors are located where? They are located within the membrane. But in this case, they will be located intracellularly, right? So the hormones has to diffuse inside the cell. If it is present in the nucleus, they will go and bind to the nucleus. Then within their corresponding receptor, they will go and bind to the corresponding sequences present within the DNA. If you remember, what is the corresponding sequence? HRE, that is hormone response elements. So upon transcription, you'll get an mRNA, they will be releasing the protein, and that protein will carry out the necessary function. So this is the difference between water soluble hormones and lipid soluble hormones. So the major difference is the presence of their receptor. Water soluble, remember, they are present within the membrane. Lipid soluble, they will be present where? Intracellularly. Okay. So remember the location and remember the ligands, the examples of the ligands. Next. So this is just a reminder to you that our Shaurya batch is going to start by 4th March. So take a wise decision, make your future bright with Biotechnica. You can join our classes. So you will get access to batches and sessions. Along with that, you will be able to interact online. You will get the printed hard copy and you will also get the backups of all the classes. Okay. So if you want to get some more information, you can contact us in our toll-free number, that is 1800-1200-1818 or 08050997000. Okay, so this is just a reminder. Think wisely and take a right decision to make your future bright. Fine. Next, so we have discussed about different types of classifications. Now this is a diagram that gives you information about different glands and their corresponding hormones. As you can see, hypothalamus is the coordinator of everyone, right? Next, pituitary. Pituitary will give rise to many hormones. Prolactin, responsible for milk production, growth hormone for growth, adrenocorticotropic hormone acting as a stress response, luteinizing hormones regulating the sex hormones. Apart from that, we have got follicular stimulating hormone that gives rise to sperms and eggs, oxytocin, antidiuretic hormone. Oxytocin, the main function is during the labor, and antidiuretic, otherwise known as vasopressin, is responsible for water balance. Right. Apart from that, thyroid gland that secretes T3 and T4, that is your thyroid hormones, calcitonin that releases calcium from bones, adrenal gland, they will release epinephrine, aldosterone, cortisol, sex hormones, many functions are there. Testes will give rise to the male development hormone, that is testosterone. Ovaries will give rise to estrogen, that is female development. Pancreas will give rise to two hormones, that is insulin and glucagon, that will regulate the blood sugar level. Thymus, thymosins, responsible for immune function. Parathyroid, they will release the hormone responsible for releasing calcium from the bones. And pineal glands that release melatonin, it regulates our sleep and wake up cycle. Okay, so this is a summary of all the hormones with their individual functions. Next, the first category of hormones is anterior pituitary hormones, which is otherwise known as adenohypophysis. So, what comes under that? Growth hormones. Growth hormones are responsible for what? They are responsible for the movement of amino acids into the cells. Not only the movement, but also incorporation of those amino acids into the proteins responsible for overall growth. Second, adrenocorticotropic hormone. What they will do? They will stimulate adrenal cortex in order to release cortisol as well as other glucocorticoids. Now, who is the regulator of this hormone? Corticotropin releasing hormone. So, this ACTH is stimulated by various stress factors like low blood glucose level or any kind of physical trauma. Next, third category is your thyroid stimulating hormone. It stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete thyroid hormones like T3 and T4. So as you can see over here, hypothalamus will activate thyroid releasing hormones, will activate anterior pituitary to release thyroid stimulating hormones, and this will act on thyroid glands to release the corresponding thyroid hormones, that is your T3 and T4, and they will give the desired response. So this is the stimulatory event. Now how you can terminate or inhibit it? Even the thyroid hormones can give negative feedback to anterior pituitary or to hypothalamus. Here also, your thyroid stimulating hormone can also give negative feedback to hypothalamus. So this is how they are regulated. Okay, that is about thyroid stimulating hormone. Coming to follicle stimulating hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone, their main action is on gonads. That is ovaries in females and testes in males. In the ovaries, FSH will stimulate development of ovarian follicles and secretion of estrogen. When it comes to testes, they are involved in sperm production. Then, like your thyroid hormones, this FSH secretion is also regulated by gonadotropin releasing hormone. Again, released from where? Released from hypothalamus. Okay. So next category is luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone, again, they will act on gonads, but different function. What is their function? They stimulate ovulation. They help in the formation of corpus luteum. And third important function is they help in progesterone secretion. So if that is the case of ovaries, may I know what is the function of luteinizing hormone in males? What could be the function of luteinizing hormone in males? For female, as you have seen, ovulation, corpus luteum formation, and progesterone secretion. But when it comes to males, what could be the function? Yes, you all know the answer. Come on, give the answer. What will be the function of luteinizing hormones in males? Yes, it will be stimulating the secretion of testosterone. And regulation again remains the same. That is gonadotropin releasing hormone from hypothalamus. Next is prolactin. So prolactin is present both in males as well as in females, right? So mainly it is involved in milk secretion from the mammary gland. And prolactin is inhibited by whom? Is inhibited by dopamine, a neurotransmitter, or a prolactin inhibiting hormone that is again released from where? From hypothalamus. So when exactly the prolactin level increases? During pregnancy. And who is responsible for increase in this level? Prolactin releasing hormone. So this PIH will be automatically inhibited by the suckling action of a nursing infant. And when it comes to males, prolactins are responsible for maintaining water electrolyte balance. Yes, exactly. Next, seventh category of your adrenal of your anterior pituitary hormones is melanocyte stimulating hormone. Now, what is the function of melanocyte stimulating hormone? Well, its exact function is not known, but many of the papers suggest that it will influence brain or it acts on brain activity. In fact, it was found that high levels of corticotropin releasing hormone, that is CRH, can activate your MSH secretion. On the other hand, similar to prolactin, here also dopamine inhibits MSH secretion. Okay, so that is about your melanocyte stimulating hormones. So till here we had discussed about, exactly Vishal, pigment controlling also we can say. Posterior pituitary hormones, that is neurohypophysis. So what are the examples of posterior pituitary hormones? So right now we discussed about anterior pituitary hormones. What are the examples of posterior pituitary hormones? Can anyone say? Give me the examples of posterior pituitary hormones. Yes, anyone? Vishal, Nandini, Rohan, anyone? Very good. It is your vasopressin, yes, Anup, and oxytocin. So first one is antidiuretic hormone, which is otherwise known as vasopressin. So these are produced by what? These are produced by neurosecretory cells of hypothalamus, and they are stored within the posterior pituitary. So when it releases? When there is a stressful conditions of dehydration, diarrhea, or excessive sweating. And They act on various organs like kidneys, sweat glands, and blood vessels. And their deficiency causes diabetes insipidus. So, here I just want to ask one question to you. What is the difference between diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus? Are they same or different? If they are different, what is the difference? Yes? What is the difference between diabetes insipidus and diabetes mellitus? Can anyone say? See, diabetes mellitus means what? It is categorized into two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 will lead to what? Inability to release insulin, right? But type 2 means what? Insulin is present, but it is resistant, right? That is diabetes mellitus. So mainly it leads to what? Increase in the blood glucose level. Am I correct? So the body's inability to use blood glucose for energy. But when it comes to diabetes insipidus, what happens? Here, there is no connectivity with blood glucose level. They will have normal blood glucose level. Okay? But what happens here is kidney cannot balance body fluids. Okay? That is what the situation when it comes to diabetes insipidus. So this can also occur either by the mutation occurring in vasopressin receptor, or it may also occur in the mutation of aquaporin 2 channel. Okay, I hope so. Diabetes mellitus and insipidus is clear to everyone. Correct? Yes, Shruti, Vishal, Kirtana, very correct. Okay, so that is the difference between mellitus and insipidus. So here what we discussed, deficiency of antidiuretic hormone is related to insipidus. Right. Now how we are going to regulate the ADH release? So whenever there is a high blood osmotic pressure, this will lead to the activation of some kind of osmoreceptors. Osmoreceptors means what? These are sensory receptors which are responsible for sensing osmotic pressure. Right. So, once these osmoreceptors are activated, they will stimulate the release of antidiuretic hormone. Right. So, once antidiuretic hormone is released, they will have their effect on these organs. They will have their effect on kidneys so that it can retain more water, thereby decrease urine. Then they will act on sweat glands, that will decrease the water loss. They will act on blood, that is arterial constriction, so that blood pressure increases. Right. So that is the case when we have high blood osmotic pressure. On the other hand, if we have a low blood osmotic pressure, what happens? Osmoreceptors will not be activated, and if osmoreceptors are not activated, ADH secretion will not be occurring. So it will not have its effect. So this is how your ADH is being regulated. Right? Yes? Next is your oxytocin. Now, what is oxytocin? Mainly, it has got an important role during and after childbirth. It stimulates uterine muscle contraction, and after childbirth, it helps in milk ejection in response to the suckling action of a nursing infant. Next, what kind of diseases that are associated with pituitary gland? So as you can see, pituitary dwarfism, that is inadequate growth hormone secretion occurring when? During childhood. Simon's disease, again here also hyposecretion of growth hormone. but occurring when? In adulthood. Gigantism, excessive growth hormone secretion, childhood. Acromegaly, hypersecretion in adults. So these are just opposite to each other. If you see, pituitary and gigantism is with respect to childhood. One is hypo, one is hyper. Similarly, Simon's disease and acromegaly are quite similar. Both of them are related to what? Related to adulthood. One is hypo, one is hyper. So if you have any confusion, you can remember in this format. 1, 3, 2, 4. That is pituitary dwarfism and gigantism, Simon's disease and acromegaly. Next. So this posterior lobe of pituitary, they will have the ability to release antidiuretic hormone, which I have already mentioned. And this helps the kidney to hold on appropriate amount of water. Right. So, for example, when a person becomes dehydrated, right, what happens? More amount of ADH is produced in order to conserve the water it contains. Inadequate ADH, it leads to excessive loss of water. When there is loss of water, this leads to dehydration. When there is dehydration, increase in the sodium level and increase in the thirst. And this is what a condition we call it as diabetes insipidus. So too much of ADH will lead to excess of retention of water, and this is what we call syndrome of inappropriate ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone secretion. Okay. Next we are moving on to thyroid gland. Now thyroid gland, it is one of the largest endocrine gland. And it is composed of what? It is composed of a large number of closed follicles. And this closed follicles is made up of secretory substances known as colloids. And it is this colloids that produces the glycoprotein thyroglobulin. And it is this thyroglobulin that helps in the synthesis of thyroid hormones. So what are the thyroid hormones here? We are having thyroxine and triiodothyronine, otherwise known as T4 and T3. Okay, so both these hormones will be profoundly increase the rate of metabolism. And they are under the control of what? They are under the control of thyroid stimulating hormone that is secreted by anterior pituitary gland. So, 93% of this thyroid hormones will be secreted in the form of T4. Only the 7% will be secreted in the form of T3. However, all the thyroxine will be converted to T3 in the tissue so that they can be functionally important. Okay, so there is some enzymes that are responsible for this conversion. Now, apart from that, thyroid gland also secretes another important hormone that is known as calcitonin. So, you might be heard different glands is having different sets of cells, right? So, similarly, thyroid glands are having parafollicular cells that is responsible for secreting calcitonin. Now, what is the function of calcitonin? They are responsible for calcium metabolism. That is, in response to high calcium levels, your calcitonin gets activated, right? So I have a picture for you with their regulation. Okay, I'll come to that. Functions includes increasing in the basal metabolic rate, synthesis of additional sodium potassium pumps, and as the ATP is utilized, heat will be given out and body temperature increases. At the same time, they also enhance the function or action of epinephrine as well as norepinephrine. Okay. Next. Now, how this T3 and T4 is being regulated? So, as I said you, whenever there is the low levels of thyroid hormones or when there is a low metabolic rate, this will activate thyroid releasing hormone. And this thyroid releasing hormone will activate the stimulating hormone present in the pituitary. Now, this thyroid stimulating hormone will stimulate your follicular cells. Why they are stimulating these follicular cells? In order to release the thyroid hormones into the blood. Next, they will themselves will give the negative feedback. If there is an excess of thyroid hormones, they will negatively dysregulate TSH as well as the TRH. Yes, Kirtana, exactly. Okay, fine. So that is the regulation of your T3 and T4 release. Now, what are the disorders that are related to thyroid gland? We have got hyperthyroidism, that is toxic goiter, thyrotoxicosis, and Graves' disease. So among this, I guess you might have heard about Graves' disease, which is the most common form of hyperthyroidism, which is an autoimmune disease. So autoimmune disease, in the sense they will have their antibodies acting against themselves. So you will have thyroid stimulating immunoglobulins that will act against the stimulating hormones. So this causes hyperthyroidism. Hypo means what? Decrease in the secretion. This is increase in the secretion. So we have got endemic goiter caused by iodide deficiency, cretinism, deficiency of thyroxine in prenatal life, that is in the early period. Hashimoto's disease is a kind of autoimmune disease resulting in atrophy. Atrophy means what? Atrophy means degradation, right? Degradation of follicular cells. Myxedema, deficiency of thyroxine in adults. So you can remember cretinism and myxedema quite opposite, because both of them are deficiency of thyroxine. This is in prenatal life and this is in the adults, and mostly occurring in females. So they will develop some kind of facial swelling and look puffy by nature. Yes, Vishal, exactly. They will be responsible for producing the auto antibodies. Next, what we are having, parathyroid hormones. So parathyroid hormones, what they are responsible for? They are responsible for producing and secreting the hormones from parathyroid gland. So what they will do, they will increase the blood levels of calcium, magnesium, and phosphate. And this increases the number or activity of osteoclast. Now, here I want to ask a question. What is the difference between osteoblast and osteoclast? You might have heard of it. Osteoblast and osteoclast. What is the difference? Yes. What is the difference? Anyone? Vishal, Kirtana, Shruti, Anup? Any of you? What is the difference between osteoclast and osteoblast? You might have heard. Just the difference is only a single letter difference, B and C. What could be the difference? Yes, Vishal? Yes. Very good, very good. Yes, I can see the answers from Vishal, Sonu, Ankita, Nisha. Exactly. So, osteoblast means what? Osteoblast means where there is new bone formation will be occurring. Clast means what? You are breaking something or degradation something. So, there will be increased calcium reabsorption in kidney, and it promotes calcitrol. So, not to be confused with calcitonin. Remember this one. Don't get confused with calcitonin, which is being secreted by which hormone, which gland? Calcitonin is secreted by, it is secreted by your thyroid, right? And calcitrol is secreted by parathyroid. So don't get confused. So it promotes calcitrol, that is increase in the calcium absorption from food, in small intestine. So remember this one. Okay. Next, what are the disorders that are related to parathyroid hormone? So it can lead to parathyroid tetany, that is uncontrolled muscle movement due to low calcium level. Osteoporosis, that is loss of calcium from bones. Hyperparathyroidism, this leads to what? Tumor. A tumor that arises due to increased parathyroid hormone secretion. Okay. So that these are some disorders related to parathyroid hormone. Next, what is the regulatory mechanism over here? See, we have two conditions. One is increase in the blood calcium level, another is decrease in the blood calcium level. So when there is increase in the blood calcium level, it is your thyroid gland that releases calcitonin. And what does this calcitonin will do? This will stimulate calcium deposition in bones and reduces its uptake in the kidneys. So what happens? Your blood calcium level will come back to normal. That happens when there is increase in the blood calcium level. Contradictory to that, if we have falling blood calcium level, then what happens? Parathyroid gland will stimulate the hormone, and this will stimulate calcium uptake in the kidneys and calcium release from the bones. So together they will contribute to what? Increase in the blood calcium level. Right. So they will help in the activation of vitamin D that will increase the calcium uptake, and this will set your blood calcium level back to normal. Got it? So that is the difference between increase in blood calcium, decrease in blood calcium. Remember, increase in blood calcium level, calcitonin, where release will be occurring. Deposition will be occurring. There will not be any uptake, only deposition, because we have increase. So we have to reduce it. On the other hand, if there is decreased parathyroid gland, and during that time we have to add or increase the blood calcium level. So during that time it is your calcitriol which plays the role over here. Got it? Am I clear with the difference between calcitonin and calcitriol? Is it clear to everyone or having any doubt? So these are a kind of minor differences among the glands which has to be kept in mind when appearing for the exam, because they may ask you in the form of statement based questions. So you have to be very clear with that. Next, we are moving on to adrenal glands, which are located superior to the kidney, and it is broadly divided into cortex and medulla. Cortex is the outermost layer, medulla is the innermost layer. So cortex is broadly divided into three zones: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis. So this is the innermost layer. And towards that we are having the adrenal medulla. Okay. So coming to adrenal cortex, what are the functions of this individual layers? Glomerulosa, they are responsible for secreting mineralocorticoids like aldosterone. And what is the function of aldosterone? To retain water and sodium, thereby excreting potassium ions. Zona fasciculata, they are responsible for secreting glucocorticoids, cortisol, and cortisone. The innermost one, that is zona reticularis, is responsible for secreting sex corticoids, that is dehydroepiandrosterone. Now, what is the function of DHEA? Do you know the function of DHEA? See, DHEA is an important precursor hormone, and you can find this hormone circulating in the human body. So it becomes powerful once it is converted to a corresponding sex steroids. Okay, so that is the function of DHEA. Next, how this hormones or the gonads, that is your estradiol, cortisol, and aldosterone, is being secreted. So as I said you in the beginning itself, all of them are cholesterol derivatives. So if you remember this in the form of a flow chart, no need to remember the enzymes, that much details is not being asked. You can remember the flow chart. From cholesterol, you are getting pregnenolone. From pregnenolone, you are getting progesterone. This progesterone gives rise to deoxycorticosterone, which gives rise to corticosterone, and finally you are receiving what? Aldosterone. So precursor, corticosterone, you can say. From corticosterone, you are getting the aldosterone. Now, how this cortisol can be synthesized? Well, it has multiple pathways. Either it can get the access from pregnenolone, progesterone, deoxycorticosterone, or corticosterone can directly get converted to cortisol. So different pathways can be followed. It can follow this pathway and it can follow this pathway as well. So these are adrenal glands. Now coming to gonads, we have got DHEA, which can be got from 17-OH pregnenolone, or 17-OH progesterone can give rise to androstenedione. This will give rise to testosterone, and testosterone gets converted to estradiol. So now here I want to ask a question. What is the enzyme responsible for converting testosterone to estradiol? Can anyone say? Yes. What is the function of testosterone to what is the enzyme that catalyzes the reaction of testosterone to estradiol? Yes. Yes. Yes, Nisha. Yes. It is your aromatase enzyme. Dilshat, calcitrol is the hormone that is being released from parathyroid gland. Okay, just opposite to that of calcitonin that is being released from thyroid gland. Got it? Yes. So the enzyme responsible for this conversion is aromatase. Okay. So you might have come across this question in your earlier exams as well. In fact, from estrogen this February, you received one question in the form of 4 marks, if you remember. Right? It was very easy and direct question. Now, coming to mineralocorticoids. So, they are responsible for what? Sodium potassium homeostasis, adjusting the blood volume and pressure. These are produced and released when during sodium deficiency, dehydration, or during hemorrhage. So, the best example for mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. And what does this aldosterone is responsible for? Their release is being stimulated by a pathway known as RAA pathway. I guess once upon a time, CSIR used to ask questions from this renin angiotensin aldosterone pathway very frequently. Of course, nowadays they have stopped asking from this session, but you never know, you may get the question in the upcoming exam. So don't ignore it, have a look onto that. So, what happens whenever there is a dehydration, whenever there is a deficiency of sodium or hemorrhage? Obviously, there will be decrease in the blood volume. So, when there is a decrease in the blood volume, this causes decrease in the blood pressure. And when there is a decrease in the blood pressure, this will activate juxtaglomerular cells present in the kidney. Now, what does this cells will do? It will start secreting renin. Then what you are having from the liver, you are getting angiotensinogen. So, this will help in the activation of angiotensin 1. From the lungs, what you are getting? Angiotensin converting enzyme. Then you are getting increased angiotensin 2. So, now you got increased angiotensin 2, right? After that, this will have its effect on adrenal cortex. Either this angiotensin 2 will directly cause vasoconstriction of arterioles, causing increase in the blood pressure, or what it will do, it will affect adrenal cortex to release aldosterone. And you know the function of aldosterone, that is sodium and water reabsorption plus secretion of potassium and hydrogen in the urine. And this causes what? Increase in the blood volume. Once there is increase in the blood volume, the pressure will be increased until it returns to the normal. Right. So this is your RAA system, or you can say renin, angiotensin, aldosterone pathway, which is being regulated by different factors, that is blood volume, blood pressure, and the level of these three ions that are present in the blood: sodium, potassium, and hydrogen. Got it? Yes, Maumita. Got it? So this is an important pathway you may expect in the coming exams. Next, we have got glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids, which includes cortisol, which is the most abundant of all the corticoids. Apart from that, corticosterone and cortisol. What is their function? They regulate metabolism and helps in resistance to stress. Their release can be regulated by negative feedback mechanism. Negative feedback mechanism means what? The corresponding hormones itself will give the negative feedback, will block the signaling pathway, or will block the release of those hormones. Okay. Next, what is their function? First thing is that they promote gluconeogenesis. What is gluconeogenesis? Wherever you come across the word genesis, it means production. Right? So it stimulates the liver cells to convert amino acids and lactic acid to glucose that can be used by neurons and other cells for ATP production. Second, helps in protein breakdown, that is, stimulates proteolysis. So upon proteolysis, what happens? Amino acids can be released into the bloodstream, right, which can be utilized. Then lipolysis, breakdown of your fats, that is triglyceride breakdown. Then increase the stress resistance, that is ATP, which is being generated by liver cells, can be used to combat different stress situations like fasting, fright, infection, trauma, etc. So these are some functions of your corticosteroids. Exactly, Vishal. Gluconeogenesis means where the glucose are being synthesized from non-carbon precursors. Very good. Then one anti-inflammatory effect is also there. That is, it is responsible for inhibiting inflammatory reactions by inhibiting WBC. So that is the reason they are used for treating autoimmune disorders like RA, that is rheumatoid arthritis, so that they can suppress immune rejection during organ transplantation. That is also one way. Okay, so they can be used in the form of a drugs as well. Next, sex corticoids we have already discussed. The principal androgen is dihydroepiandrosterone, and it belongs to the class of hormones, that is androgens, major male sex hormone responsible for producing testosterone. When it comes to females, it is responsible for producing estrogen. Now, coming to adrenal medulla. Adrenal medulla is what? They are having a group of cells known as chromaffin cells. And these chromaffin cells are responsible for producing two hormones. What are they? Epinephrine and norepinephrine. And these hormones are produced in response to stress and during exercise. So what is their function? They increase the heart output by increasing the heart rate and contraction. They increase the blood flow to different organs. They will dilate the lung airways, and they also increase the blood levels of glucose and fatty acids. Next, these adrenal medulla and adrenal cortex can have two types of responses. What are those responses? See, adrenal medulla, as I said you, they are responsible for secreting epinephrine and norepinephrine. So they can generate short-term responses. What are those responses? glycogen broken down to glucose so that there will be increase in the blood glucose level, increase in the blood pressure, increase in the respiration rate, metabolic rate, and also they can cause change in the blood flow patterns. When it comes to adrenal cortex, it secretes corticoids, that is mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids. Mineralocorticoids, as I discussed earlier, that is antidiuretic hormone. Yes, Maumita, they are emergency hormones. Yes, Vishal, epinephrine, norepinephrine, very correct. So this mineralocorticoids, they will retain sodium ions and water, that is with the help of antidiuretic hormone. So they will be increase in the blood volume and pressure. Glucocorticoids, they are responsible for conversion to glucose. That is whatever the biomolecules, that is proteins and fats are present, they will be converted to glucose, thereby increasing the blood glucose level. Next, what are the diseases associated with adrenal gland? First one is Cushing's syndrome, which is hypersecretion of cortisol, characterized by breakdown of muscle proteins and redistribution of body fats. So this will result in spindly arms and legs, meaning what? Long and thin arms and legs. The patient will have bruises easily and wound healing will be poor. Bruises means what? When we suddenly got hit somewhere, there you will find a patch in over the skin, dark patch you can see. As we say that there is a blood clotting, that is bruises. So elevated cortisol can also cause glycemia, that is hyperglycemia, and osteoporosis. Next, Addison's disease, hyposecretion of glucocorticoids. Pheochromocytoma, that is, it's a kind of tumor that is generated in chromaffin cells of adrenal medulla. This leads to what? Excessive secretion of your emergency hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine. Adrenal virilism, excess of male hormones present in females. Gynecomastia, excess of female hormones present in males. Remember just the opposite. Next, placenta, HCG and HCS. So you are very much aware that after fertilization, zygote will undergo cleavage to form blastocyst within 6 days. And the trophoblast cells that are present within the blastocyst will start secreting human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. Now, what is the function of HCG? They will help in stimulating corpus luteum for the production of estrogen and progesterone. And soon after 45 days, you can see HCG concentration becomes more and can be detected within the urine. What is HCS? Human chorionic somatic mammotropin. They are responsible for the development of mammary gland that is needed during lactation. Yes, Vishal. Yes, Nisha. Next, testis. Testis, we can find testosterone as the major hormone produced by Leydig cells. And more than 98% of this hormone is bound to plasma proteins and 2% remain as unbound. Dihydrotestosterone, only 20% of this is synthesized. Remaining 80% of them, you got it from the conversion of testosterone. And this dihydrotestosterone is 2 times active than testosterone. Third category is androstenedione, which is an important steroid precursor. And these are used for increase in the production of testosterone, that is to enhance athletic performance, increase the energy, increase RBCs, means keeping the RBCs healthy, recovery, then growth from exercise and increase sexual desire and performance. So these are some examples. Yes, Vishal. Yes, exactly. Next, before going to gastrointestinal, we have got ovary, that I will explain it over here. Ovary will start secreting 2 hormones, that is estrogen and progestins. right? So this estrogen will lead to what? It lead to the production of three types of hormones. What are they? Estradiol, then we have got estron, and then we have got estriol. Okay, these are the three types of estrogen. Now, what is the difference among them, these three? Your estron, that is considered as E1, and this is responsible, or you can see, during menopause. Then next one is estradiol, that is E2, and this is considered to be present during the non-reproductive period, that is the principal estrogen, you can see. And the third one is estriol, which is E3, and this is seen during pregnancy. Okay, and we have got relaxin, an hormone that is responsible for labor, helps during the labor. Okay, so these are some few details with respect to ovary. Of course, progestins will give rise to progesterone. Okay, so these are the few details with respect to ovary. Next, these are some digestive hormones in the GI tract, which is being asked very less, but still I just provided the table with you. Gastrine, where it is located. In fact, location is okay, but sometimes they may ask in the form of physiological action. They are responsible for secreting gastric acid and intrinsic factor from parietal cell. Then cholecystokinin stimulates gallbladder contraction and release of pancreatic enzymes. Secretin stimulates secretion of bicarbonate ions from pancreas. Then these gastric inhibitory polypeptide. This was once asked in the CSIR exam. It reduces gastric acid secretion and intestinal motility. At the same time, stimulates insulin release. Then somatostatin is also important. It inhibits the secretion and action of many hormones, including all the above hormones. Okay, gastrin, cholecystokinin, secretin, GIP, motilin, etc. Yes, Maumita, yes. Inhibin is responsible for inhibiting FSH secretion during pregnancy. Got it, Maumita? Inhibin is responsible for inhibiting FSH secretion during pregnancy. Next, we have got kidney that can act as an endocrine system. So we have got renin that raises the blood pressure by bringing about vasoconstriction and secretion of aldosterone. Then we have got erythropoietin, which is a cytokine responsible for increasing the rate of RBC formation. Calcitriol, which aids in the absorption of dietary calcium and phosphorus. Then we can also say heart as an endocrine organ, because ANF you might have heard. ANF you might have heard under GPC, under your RTK pathway as well, where it is related to your membrane bound form of GC. Right? Membrane bound form of GC you might have heard under cell signaling. It is responsible for decreasing the blood pressure. So basically their important role in regulating the blood pressure, how? By promoting the excretion of water and sodium. And a majority of this A and P will be synthesized within the cardiac muscles, that is atria. That's the reason it is so named, atrial natriuretic hormone. Okay. Then adipose tissue, we have got leptin that is responsible for maintaining the appetite. That is how much food should be taken when we feel the feeling that, okay, we have enough of food, we don't want any more. All those things is related to leptin. In fact, it is seen that leptin deficiency, or if leptin is mutated, that corresponding individual will have excess intake of food and overweight as well. So this is basically a regulatory hormone present in our body. and it is being coded by a gene known as obese gene. So, as the name indicates, it is being predominantly expressed by adipocytes. And this receptors, that is leptin receptors, you can find in the areas of hypothalamus, that is known to be important in regulating body weight, as well as in T lymphocytes, vascular endothelial cells, etc. Then we have got skin that act as an endocrine system. So how we are getting this? We have got 7-dehydrocholesterol. Upon hitting the sunlight, gets converted to cholecalciferol, vitamin D3. Within the liver, it gets converted to 25-hydroxycholecalciferol. Within the kidney, it gets converted to 125-dihydroxy vitamin D. So now what you got? The active form of vitamin D. Next, we have got liver acting as an endocrine system. Growth hormone will act on liver and this will activate somatomedins. Now, this somatomedins will act on fat cells causing lipogenesis. Chondrocytes helps in cartilage formation leading to bone growth, acts on muscles leading to protein synthesis. So, this liver, what it will do, it will produce insulin like growth factors in response to growth hormones. And these growth factors are nothing but somatomedins, which can act on chondrocytes, increase the uptake of sulfur, help in elongation of bones. And it was found that deficiency of this, that is somatomedins, can result in growth retardation, even if growth hormone is present. So you can imagine how much important is somatomedins, right? So this is the summary of the entire endocrine disorders. So if you feel any doubt, anything, you can just look into this table and find out what are the hormones, what is the disease, what is their symptoms, and yes, here you are having two different columns, okay? Growth hormone, antidiuretic, T3, T4, parathyroid, insulin, mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids. Then this is also another. Okay. So this will cause gigantism, acromegaly if it is excessive growth. So this will lead to syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion. So all these things we had discussed. So this is just accumulated into one table. Okay. So here we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much. How was the session? Are you able to understand the things? Did you get the deep insight into some important aspects of endocrinology? Yes? So you can join our Telegram group. So within 1 hour, you will be getting the sample papers from Unit 7. So that will be helpful for you for the exam. Okay. Okay then. Thank you so much, everyone. Meet all the best for your upcoming exams. Okay. Okay then. Thank you so much, Devanshi. Thank you so much, Anup.